NASA images show something impossible under the Antarctic ice: straight, uniform stumps where no trees should exist. For decades, we've been told Antarctica has always been a frozen wasteland, a lifeless continent buried under miles of ancient ice, the coldest place on Earth, a place where no civilization could survive, no ecosystem could thrive, and certainly no forests could ever grow. But satellite imagery tells a different story. Across certain exposed regions of Antarctica, researchers and independent investigators have identified strange circular formations embedded beneath the ice. Massive dark structures, uniform in spacing, flat on top. Some appear clustered together like the remnants of a giant forest floor. And according to some interpretations of high-altitude scans, these formations stretch for miles. The official story says these are natural geological anomalies: wind erosion, basalt intrusions, ice fractures exposing underlying rock. But many people are no longer convinced, because when viewed from above, some of these formations resemble something disturbingly familiar: tree stumps. Gigantic tree stumps, not ordinary trees, not the forests we know today, but colossal ancient trunks, hundreds of feet wide, preserved beneath Antarctic ice as if frozen in time. And if even a fraction of this theory is true, then one terrifying question follows immediately. What happened to the forest that once covered Antarctica? To understand why this theory has exploded across the internet, we need to begin with something the mainstream scientific community openly admits. Antarctica was not always frozen. In fact, geological evidence confirms that millions of years ago, Antarctica was warm enough to support forests, rivers, wetlands, and complex ecosystems. Fossilized leaves have been discovered beneath the ice. Ancient pollen samples have been recovered from deep sediment cores. Scientists have uncovered preserved roots and even remnants of prehistoric wood. The official explanation says this occurred during periods when Earth's climate was dramatically warmer than today. But critics of the mainstream timeline point to something unusual. Some preserved material appears far less degraded than expected, and in certain regions, radar scans seem to show organized patterns beneath the surface. Patterns that look less like random geology and more like structured remains. This is where the theory becomes controversial, because according to alternative researchers, Antarctica may once have been home to forests unlike anything modern humanity has ever seen. Not ordinary pine trees, not tropical jungles, but giant prehistoric megaforests filled with trees so enormous they would dwarf modern skyscrapers. And strangely enough, mythology around the world seems to describe exactly that. Ancient cultures from multiple continents speak of an earlier age when giant trees connected heaven and earth, towering pillars visible from impossible distances, trees large enough to contain entire ecosystems within their branches. The Norse described Yggdrasil, the world tree. Ancient Mesopotamian texts referred to sacred cosmic forests. Even some Native American traditions speak of giant trees reaching above the clouds. The official story dismisses these as symbolic myths. But what if they were distorted memories? What if humanity inherited fragmented stories from a forgotten prehistoric world? Because when investigators compare these myths to modern satellite images of Antarctica, the similarities become difficult to ignore. Certain formations display almost perfect circular symmetry. Some appear cut cleanly across the top. Others are surrounded by radial fracture patterns resembling exposed root systems. And perhaps most disturbing of all, many of these structures are isolated from nearby mountain ranges, making ordinary geological explanations less convincing to independent analysts. One particular region has become the center of intense debate. High-resolution imagery from exposed Antarctic terrain reveals a massive flat-topped formation protruding through the ice. The diameter is enormous, nearly impossible to comprehend at human scale. Viewed from orbit, it resembles a giant stump embedded in frozen ground. The official explanation labels it a mesa formation shaped by erosion. But alternative researchers point to the smooth upper surface, the surrounding radial patterns, and the apparent uniformity of neighbouring formations. They argue that natural erosion rarely produces such consistent circular structures across multiple locations. And then came the space imagery. Publicly available satellite maps allowed internet investigators to zoom into Antarctic regions with unprecedented detail. Thousands of users began comparing coordinates, sharing screenshots, and cataloguing strange formations across the continent. Entire online communities formed around one question: are these really mountains or something else entirely? The debate intensified after several images appeared to show ring-like textures resembling growth rings. Critics immediately responded that humans naturally see patterns where none exist, a phenomenon known as pareidolia. But supporters countered with a larger point. If Antarctica once supported forests, and if rapid freezing occurred due to a catastrophic climate event, then preservation under ice becomes theoretically possible. Ice is one of nature's greatest preservation systems. Frozen mammoths have been discovered in Siberia with soft tissue still intact. Ancient bacteria have survived within glaciers for thousands of years. Entire ecosystems can remain sealed beneath ice with astonishing structural preservation. So what would happen if an enormous forest were suddenly buried beneath advancing polar ice? According to this theory, the answer might still be visible from space today, but the mystery becomes even stranger when we examine Antarctica's hidden geography. Most people imagine Antarctica as a single continuous block of ice. It is not. Beneath the frozen surface lies an enormous continent filled with mountains, valleys, lakes, rivers, and massive underground formations. Some subglacial lakes have remained isolated for millions of years. Radar mapping has revealed mountain ranges larger than the Alps hidden beneath the ice sheet. There are volcanoes beneath Antarctica, active geothermal zones. Entire landscapes humanity has never directly explored. And according to some researchers, this hidden terrain may preserve evidence of a radically different prehistoric world. One of the most fascinating discoveries came from deep ice core analysis. Scientists drilling into Antarctic ice uncovered evidence of ancient temperate environments, pollen from trees, organic compounds associated with dense vegetation, indicators of ecosystems far warmer than modern Antarctica. Official science explains this through plate tectonics and ancient greenhouse climates, but critics ask an uncomfortable question. If Antarctica once supported lush forests, how rapidly did conditions change? Because certain evidence suggests sudden transitions rather than gradual ones. Some fossilized remains appear extraordinarily well preserved. Certain sediment layers imply abrupt environmental collapse, and this has led alternative historians to propose a catastrophic scenario. They believe Antarctica experienced a rapid freezing event tied to a planetary disaster. Possible causes range from crust displacement theories to asteroid impacts, magnetic pole shifts, or ancient atmospheric changes. The official scientific community rejects these ideas as unsupported speculation, but the mystery persists because Antarctica remains one of the least explored places on Earth, and secrecy surrounding the continent only fuels suspicion. Access to Antarctica is heavily regulated. Large portions are restricted. Independent expeditions face enormous legal and logistical barriers. The Antarctic Treaty limits military activity and territorial claims, officially to preserve scientific cooperation and environmental protection. Yet conspiracy researchers see something else. They ask why so many nations cooperate so intensely over a continent supposedly containing nothing but ice. Why are certain areas difficult to access? Why are some satellite images lower resolution than equivalent imagery elsewhere on Earth? And why have military operations repeatedly occurred in Antarctica throughout modern history? One event is constantly referenced in these discussions: Operation Highjump. In 1946, shortly after World War II, the United States launched one of the largest Antarctic expeditions ever conducted. Thousands of personnel. Aircraft carriers, submarines, military aircraft. Officially, the mission focused on training and scientific research, but alternative theorists believe the operation encountered something unexpected. Rumours spread that aircraft photographed strange formations beneath the ice. Some even claimed massive hidden structures existed deep within Antarctica. No verified evidence confirms these stories. Yet the mythology surrounding Antarctica continued to grow. As decades passed, satellite technology improved, and with each new scan, internet investigators claimed to discover more anomalies. Some formations resemble walls, others appear geometric. Several look eerily similar to gigantic cut tree trunks viewed from above. Skeptics argue these interpretations ignore basic geology. They point out that nature frequently creates circular formations through volcanic activity, glacial erosion, and tectonic processes. And to be fair, many alleged tree stumps are almost certainly natural rock formations, but supporters of the theory insist the sheer number of anomalies matters, not one structure, hundreds, perhaps thousands, spread across enormous distances. And they point to another unsettling detail. Some formations appear aligned, not randomly distributed, but clustered in patterns resembling ancient forest spacing. Again, mainstream geology disputes this entirely, yet the visual similarity remains powerful, especially when combined with humanity's ancient obsession with giant trees, because stories of impossible forests appear everywhere. Legends describe trees larger than mountains. Ancient texts speak of civilizations living among enormous trunks. Certain myths even describe a great destruction involving fire, darkness, and freezing skies. What if these stories originated from a real prehistoric catastrophe? What if humanity inherited fragmented memories of an older world erased by climate collapse? This idea connects to a broader alternative history theory, often called the reset hypothesis. According to this concept, human civilization may have experienced repeated global catastrophes that destroyed previous advanced societies. The official historical timeline, critics argue, covers only a tiny fragment of humanity's true past. Lost civilizations may have existed long before recorded history. Antarctica, buried beneath miles of ice, could theoretically preserve traces of such forgotten worlds, and if giant forests once existed there, their remains might represent evidence of an environment completely alien to modern experience. Supporters of the giant tree theory often compare Antarctic formations to another controversial phenomenon seen worldwide: flat-topped mountains. Across Earth, there are countless mesas and isolated plateaus with strangely uniform tops. Some alternative theorists argue these formations are not mountains at all, but remnants of gigantic ancient trees cut down long ago. Mainstream geology attributes these formations to erosion acting over millions of years, but the giant tree theory interprets them differently. The trunk becomes the mountain. The roots become canyon systems radiating outward. The flat top becomes the cut surface. Most scientists dismiss this interpretation immediately. Yet online communities continue expanding the theory using comparative imagery from around the world, and Antarctica sits at the center of the discussion because of one crucial factor: preservation. If giant trees once existed elsewhere, erosion would erase most evidence over immense timescales. But Antarctica's ice acts like a planetary freezer, a frozen archive, a continent locked in suspended animation. Some researchers believe entire ancient ecosystems may still exist beneath the ice sheet, perfectly preserved in darkness. And surprisingly, mainstream science partially agrees with one aspect of this idea. Subglacial ecosystems do exist beneath Antarctica. Microbial life survives in isolated lakes beneath kilometers of ice. Ancient organic material remains trapped in frozen sediments. In other words, Antarctica is preserving history beneath its surface right now. The disagreement concerns scale. Official science sees fossil remnants and geological records. Alternative theorists see the remains of an impossible lost world. The debate intensified dramatically after several viral videos compared Antarctic formations to freshly cut tree stumps. The resemblance shocked millions of viewers. Circular structures, layered textures, fracture lines resembling wood grain. Some videos accumulated tens of millions of views. Critics called them misleading pseudoscience, but supporters argued the emotional reaction itself revealed something important. People instinctively recognized the shapes, and this raises a deeper psychological question. Why are humans so fascinated by the idea of giant ancient trees? Perhaps because forests already feel ancient and mysterious to us. Even modern redwoods inspire awe. A single mature redwood can tower over buildings and live for thousands of years. Now imagine a prehistoric ecosystem operating under different atmospheric conditions, higher oxygen levels, different gravity dynamics, altered climate systems. Some alternative researchers argue these conditions might have allowed truly colossal vegetation to exist. Mainstream botany strongly disputes such extreme claims. Still, Earth's fossil record does show that prehistoric life often reached enormous sizes compared to modern equivalents. Giant insects once existed. Massive reptiles dominated entire eras. Environments changed dramatically over geological time. And because Antarctica remains largely unexplored beneath its ice cover, uncertainty creates room for speculation. Another intriguing factor involves ancient maps. Several controversial historical maps appear to depict Antarctica before its modern ice coverage. The most famous is the Piri Reis map from the 16th century. Some researchers claim portions of the map show Antarctic coastlines without ice. Mainstream historians reject this interpretation, arguing the map reflects distortions and incomplete geographic knowledge. Yet the mystery persists because accurate Antarctic mapping should have been impossible before modern exploration. Alternative historians ask whether ancient civilizations possessed forgotten geographic knowledge inherited from a much older source, and if Antarctica was once habitable, who lived there? This is where theories become even more speculative. Some propose lost human civilizations, others suggest non-human builders or forgotten advanced cultures erased from history. There is no verified evidence supporting these claims, but the imagination fills gaps where information is limited. And Antarctica contains more unknown territory than almost anywhere else on Earth. Even today, radar scans continue revealing unexpected features beneath the ice. Hidden canyons, mountain systems, ancient river channels, buried lakes. The continent is far more complex than most people realize. Some scientists believe Antarctica may preserve climate records stretching back millions of years. Others think future discoveries beneath the ice could completely reshape our understanding of Earth's history. And that possibility fuels endless speculation. Because what if the official story is incomplete? What if Antarctica is not merely a frozen desert, but a sealed vault containing evidence of a prehistoric world humanity barely remembers? The giant stump theory taps into something larger than geology. It challenges the assumption that we fully understand Earth's past. It asks whether ancient myths may contain fragments of truth hidden beneath symbolism. And perhaps most importantly, it forces us to confront how little of Antarctica has actually been explored directly. Modern humans have mapped the moon more thoroughly than certain regions beneath Antarctic ice. That fact alone sounds almost unbelievable. Yet it is true. Much of Antarctica's hidden terrain remains inferred through radar and remote sensing rather than direct excavation, and every new scan generates fresh anomalies. Some eventually receive ordinary explanations, others remain unresolved. This uncertainty creates fertile ground for alternative theories. Because where mystery exists, narratives emerge. Some are scientific, some are speculative, some become modern mythology. The Antarctic forest theory exists somewhere between all three. Critics say the evidence collapses under geological scrutiny. Supporters argue mainstream science dismisses anomalies too quickly. And the average observer is left staring at satellite images, wondering why certain formations look so disturbingly artificial. Perhaps the simplest explanation is still the correct one: natural geology shaped by millions of years of erosion. Or perhaps the story is more complicated. After all, history repeatedly shows that humanity's understanding of Earth changes over time. Entire lost cities have been discovered beneath jungles. Ancient civilizations once dismissed as myths later proved real. Massive structures invisible from ground level emerged through satellite archaeology. What else remains hidden beneath Earth's surface? And what might Antarctica reveal if its ice ever fully retreats? Some climate researchers warn that melting Antarctic ice could expose landscapes untouched for millions of years. Ancient river systems may reappear. Buried ecosystems could emerge. Perhaps entirely unknown fossils wait beneath the ice sheet right now. For conspiracy researchers, this possibility carries enormous implications. Because if Antarctica contains evidence contradicting mainstream historical narratives, then future discoveries could trigger a complete reassessment of human history. The official story says Antarctica's forests disappeared gradually over immense geological timescales. But alternative theories imagine something far more dramatic, a sudden catastrophe, an ancient reset, a world frozen almost overnight. And according to believers, the giant stumps visible from space are the scars left behind. The remains of a forgotten forest larger than human imagination can comfortably process. Whether true or not, one fact remains undeniable. Antarctica is still hiding secrets. Its ice conceals landscapes no human eyes have ever directly seen. Its frozen layers preserve records stretching deep into Earth's past. And every year, new technologies peel back small pieces of the mystery. Perhaps one day, deep beneath Antarctic ice, scientists will uncover evidence explaining these strange formations once and for all. Maybe they will confirm ordinary geology. Or maybe they will discover something nobody expected. Until then, the debate continues. We've been told Antarctica is empty, but the archives show a continent with a radically different past. We've been told giant ancient forests are impossible, but evidence confirms Antarctica once supported vegetation in climates completely unlike today, and we've been told the strange formations visible from space are merely natural rock. Yet millions of people continue looking at those images and asking the same uncomfortable question. What if everything we were taught is wrong? If you found this investigation fascinating, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe the Antarctic formations are ordinary geology, or could they be evidence of a lost prehistoric world buried beneath the ice? Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more forbidden history, hidden anomalies, and mysteries the official story still cannot fully explain.